What is going on, beautiful people? I hope you are having a fantastic day. Welcome back to another episode of the Thrive Forever Fit show. As always, I'm grateful for you. I'm pumped that you're here. And the fact that you spend your time listening to me rant and rave is unbelievably amazing to me. And I couldn't be more grateful for it. Secondarily, this podcast is sponsored by a brand new product that I have just released to the market. It's called Elite Collagen. If you're not taking a collagen product, then you just don't care about your healthy skin, your healthy hair, your healthy nails, your joints, your cardiovascular health, just your overall body wellness. Collagen is an amazing product that is going to help with everything. And listen, I mean, you're exposed to a lot of elements. Why not internally fortify your system with a beautiful collagen? But here's the situation. Some of you guys are, no, hey, bud, I'm already taking a collagen. Appreciate you. Got you. I got bad news. The problem is this. Most collagen powders are just that. They're powdered collagens, and they're made from bovine, which is cows, or porcine, which is pig's skin. Have you ever seen a cow's skin or a pig's skin? Some of them are plant derived. We won't even get into those. The collagen, it's not even really a collagen product. It's a makeup of stuff that tries to become collagen. But if you're taking a collagen powder, one of those big hefty collagen, gross, chalky, whatever it is, just know that it's coming from skin of cows and pigs. And of course they wash them. But if you've ever been at a pig farm or a cow farm, not the most savory of things. My collagen is a marine-based collagen. And here's the big thing. Forget all the other shit I've already said. Here's the differentiation between mine and the one you're already taking. Mine is half a tablespoon every day. It's a delicious chocolate mint flavor. And here's the big stuff. Here's the real deal. Here's what nobody's telling you. The powdered collagens get broken down inside of the gastrointestinal stomach, inside of the stomach. That's not where collagen gets absorbed. Collagen actually gets absorbed and has a higher efficacious benefit if it's absorbed in the small intestine. Well, see, mine passes through the stomach based on a beautiful collection of polymers and a collection of these peptides. If you heard that, that's just Rudy taking a sneeze. He likes to be introduced in some of these podcasts, and I didn't give him a proper shout out. But my collagen actually passes through the stomach and gets digested inside of the small intestine, which is where all the magic happens. Your powdered product's not even making it there. So you're getting very minimal, if any, efficacious effects from drinking that chalky, gross tasting powder product. So if you're interested, just go to thriveforeverfit.com, go to my store. You'll see Elite Collagen on there. You can pop me a note. I'll give you all the details. It is unbelievably amazing. I've been taking it for a while because I've been testing it and creating it and everything. Guys, it is revolutionary and it is unbelievable. I can't wait for you to try it. Elite Collagen. Go grab yourself some today. Take care of you. Hey, Jana, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm great, Jay. How are you?
I am awesome, and I'm happy you're here. And let's just go ahead and give a quick shout out to Mr. Sean Marshall for connecting us. Sean, I know you're going to listen to this. I love you, brother. I'll speak for Jana. We just met, but I guarantee she loves you too, or we wouldn't be here today. So, and I'm big on this. Like, I love positive, powerful connections. And I know that if you're a friend of Sean's, that you've got to have this like cosmic awesomeness. And so I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you for saying yes. And I'm excited about see where today goes.
Yeah, me too. Let's go.
Awesome. All right. So before we jump into all of your awesomeness from the entrepreneurial and the, creation aspect, I just want the audience to learn a little bit more about you. We kind of chatted about it, but originally from Saskatchewan, Canada. And like I told you, like I've got tons of clients in Saskatchewan. So I feel like I'm almost like a native son. They send me these, I didn't know this. So they've all sent me like these hoodies, and I guess you guys call it a bunny hug.
It's a bunny hug.
Okay. So did not even know what that was. So here's how the story came about, right? And this is about you, but I think you'll get a kick out of this. I am freezing all the time, and I live in Palm Desert, California. So I wear a hoodie pretty much year round. I don't have on one today, but it's very rare that I don't have a hoodie on. And so I would call it a hoodie. And all of my Canadian clients kept posting on our private page, like, no, Jay, it's a bunny hug. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so a couple of them actually sent me they had these hoodies made that said, it's not a hoodie, it's a bunny hug. And so first of all, I think Canadians, and this is a really stupid thing to say, my Canadian clients are some of the nicest, most awesome people on the planet. They're so generous and they're so awesome to me, but they have taught me a lot about language as well. So I'm still trying to work it into my vocabulary, but I struggle saying, I'm going to wear a buddy hug today.
Funny hug.
So that's my Canadian story. So you're originally from Saskatchewan. Tell me a little bit about that, because you said grew up in a small town and now you guys are in Mexico. So give me a little bit of the details on that.
Absolutely. So yeah, a farm girl from a small little agricultural town in Saskatchewan, and like your typical. I think your typical farm girl, like entrepreneurial family, farmers, you helped each other out. All the kids in high school played all the sports, or else our town didn't have a team. Um,
Give me a number. Like what size school did you go to? Like how many people did you graduate with?
I graduated with 22 people.
Hello. Okay. See, I graduated with like 39 and I thought my town was small. So love that. All right.
No, 22 people,
Okay.
of which one is now my husband. So, and we kind of ruled the school. Like in grade 12, I said to him in the summer going into grade 12, I was like, listen, we need to we basically need to own the school. So I'm going to run for student council president and you run for vice president. And he,
Good for you.
yeah, and he's like, yeah, okay, let's do this. So yeah, so grade 12, we basically owned the school. It was awesome. Carnival Queen, it's a big deal in our town. And so you raise money. And so, yes, I was crowned Carnival Queen, the youngest ever in Northwest Saskatchewan. I still hold that title, which I love, but that was our upbringing, right? You had lots of open space. Moms grew huge gardens. You'd meet in town and play kick the can till the sun went down in the middle of the summer. It was an amazing place to grow up. And then, both of us were actually first from our family to go to the big city of Saskatoon, where one of our provincial universities were, and we went to school there. And so, we did the things that you think you're supposed to do. You go to university, you get your degree. My husband went immediately into his master's degree. I got a job to help pay for his tuition. Then I went and did my master's degree. Then it was time to have kids and we both had jobs. And, you check the boxes, right? You rent a house, and then you buy a house, then you get a bigger house and a nicer car, and you do all of these things. And in the middle of all of that, the good Lord granted me with a pain journey. And in my early 20s, I would say late teens and early 20s, it started to show itself. And it showed itself in the form of digestive pain, and nothing crazy at first. And really, I chalked it up to, my mom and dad chalked it up to, the doctors chalked it up to, Jana, firstborn, A-type personality, likes to strive to be, academically and athletically and just, that kind of a person. And so if you just learned how to ease up a little bit, that pain would go away. And here's the funny thing, Jay, because it didn't, and it actually got more intense. And so I found myself just after completing my university degree, about 2 years into a health journey that saw me on 11 different medications at that point. And I was actually taking medications that would counteract some of the side effects of the medications that were higher up on the list.
Yeah.
No one knew. I did every test. I saw specialists. I did everything. Until one day I was sitting in my doctor's office and she said to me, Jana, we believe as your medical team that the pain is in your head and that you're seeking attention, and we wish you a nice life.
Oh,
that it was one
good.
of those moments.
Yeah,
right?
That feels good to hear.
Yep. And in my mind, I'm thinking, wait, but you're wearing the white coat. You have the stethoscope around your neck. You are the person that's supposed to help me figure this out so I can heal and then live my life. Because I wanted 3 things, only ever 3 things in my life. I didn't think I was asking for much. I wanted to marry my high school sweetheart, wanted to be a mom, wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, is that too much to ask? I think that's a pretty basic list, right?
Yeah, those are good.
Right? And on the outside, I looked seemingly healthy. No one knew the struggle that I was having inside. The mornings where I couldn't get out of bed, and then the thoughts, right? Our mindset, and we'll talk more about that, like the voices in your head that start telling you, why would he want to marry you? It's like you're giving him a jail sentence of a wife. Is your body even able to have kids? How can you even think to start your own business if you can't even get out of bed in the morning, or if you miss your 10:30 and 11:30, medication, pop your pills,
Right.
and you're out for the rest of the day. Like, how can you lead people? How can you inspire people? And these were the voices, right? And the voices took me into a really deep, dark place for about 3 months. And it was almost like I was living this double life where I would be, happy Jana, going through the motions. And inside, I was just like literally dying to the point where I wouldn't even pick up the phone to make a hair appointment. I became like so frozen in just fear, I guess.
Right.
Until one day, I was in line at the grocery store. And you know how they have like the magazine racks when you're
Yeah.
waiting in line, right? There was, and to this day, I'm a huge Madonna fan. There is Madonna on the cover of a fitness magazine. And the word Pilates, which I didn't even know how to pronounce it, was like splashed across the front cover. And I was like, hey, what is Madonna doing? So of course I buy the magazine. I go home, don't even put the groceries away, and I flip to the page where it's the article. And I read the article not once, but about 3 or 4 times, because I was teaching fitness through university to pay for tuition. And that's when I was a big believer in, you measured the quality of yesterday's workout by how hard your body hurt the day after. Like, if I could go down the stairs, I had to lift harder. If I could, if I could sit down on the toilet without my glutes on fire, I had to go more, I had to lunge more and squat more.
Yeah.
And my brain literally could not decipher the words on this page of this form of movement that focused on breath and focused on alignment and spinal movement and joint range of motion and fascia and circulation and all this stuff. And I was like, what, like, kind of sounds like yoga, but if Madonna's doing it, I'm going to go try it. So I treated myself to a new Pilates mat, a new pair of leggings, and a new water bottle, and off I went. And I walked into that class in typical Jana Danielson style, and I went right to the front because I was like, I am going to be the best student in this damn class. And I took a second to survey the room, and I noticed bodies, all ages, all shapes, all sizes. And I decided right at that moment that I really was going to be like the best student in the class. And within about 30 seconds of my instructor starting to talk about inhaling through your nose to fill your diaphragm, softening, through that rib cage. And I'm trying to use my peripheral vision. I can hear people inhaling and exhaling. Yeah. And I'm like trying not to make a big scene, but I'm like, what the fuck is actually going on here right now? Like, why am I not able to breathe past my collarbones? Why is my neck on fire? Why am I like I'm like frozen tag? Someone come and thaw me because I can't move. She's talking a different language. I know it's English, but my brain's not understanding. And in my mind, I'm like, why did you go to the front of the room? Why didn't you go to the back of the room? Because you could have scooped your mat and you could have left out of there. But I was at the front and I didn't want to make a big deal. Right. So I stayed and I struggled and I held back the tears because for the first time in my life, my body, what I thought was the first time in my life, my body was not responding to what my brain was asking it to do. And I stayed after class. She walked up to me and said, just hang on for a few minutes. And she said goodbye to everybody else. And she walked up to me and she just put her arms around me. And Jay, I just collapsed in her arms. I just started weeping. And I felt this feeling of like, just surrender, not like weakness surrender, but like on my knees. I am so disconnected from my body. Like I didn't say those words, but that's what I felt I was saying to her as she hugged me, this right. Seemingly stranger, right? And all she said was, come back on Thursday. And I wiped my tears and away I went. And my husband was at the gym in this facility and he walked out and of course my eyes are like, I was just cutting onions. He's like, what happened in that class? And I was like, I don't know, but I have to come back on Thursday. And I did. And I came back every Tuesday and Thursday for 16 weeks. And by week 16, I had weaned myself off of all 11 of my medications that I was on. I had no idea why. I would like do things like cross my fingers, knock on wood. I would do all those superstitious things because I felt like in any moment it could come back. Right. But I didn't want to rock the boat, right? And what I found was this deep curiosity to find out, how did my body heal? Why did movement and breath and focused hydration and better, like, why did that healing happen without the presence of someone in a white coat?
Yeah.
And that was the shift for me. I started learning more. I got certified to teach Pilates. I was running my own business at that point, my human resource consulting firm. It was a successful business. And one night, and I started teaching out of my home. So my sister and my friends came and started doing Pilates classes with me. My husband got 6 of his buddies. Twice a week we did guys class.
Oh, cool.
They would do Pilates, and then they would have a beer after class. And then word started spreading about Jana, and she's, in Arbor Creek, and she's teaching these classes out of her basement. And 4 classes grew to 8 classes, and 8 classes grew to 12 classes, and 12 classes grew to 16 classes, until one day I came upstairs from where I was teaching, and Jason had the boys in bed, and he said to me, this is what you're meant to do. When I hear you downstairs teaching, you become transformed.
Oh.
The way you inspire and move those people, Jana, this is what you're meant to do. He said, let's figure out a way to transition you out of, your consulting business and into what you're meant to do. Let's find a space, let's get a studio going and run with this. And it was like, what? This is my hobby. This is my side hustle, right? Right? I've got a master's in business. I don't open a Pilates studio. I got to do corporate stuff and consulting stuff. And he's like, no, this is what you're meant to do. And that's what I did. So he actually quit his corporate job, came and took over the consulting firm. I opened my first studio in September of 2010. It grew very rapidly. We expanded to 9,000 square feet in 2015. We included a integrated health therapies clinic. So I now have a team of just over 50 clinicians, instructors, and administrators. We offer movement therapy through Pilates. We offer chiropractic, physiotherapy, massage, mental health services, osteopathy and naturopathic medicine, Reiki, reflexology. We really want, the business model is like an infinity sign, and people flow from movement to therapy and therapy to movement, and it's beautiful. And then in 2019, I wanted to take my show on the road because Saskatchewan was a safe little bubble for me. I was known, I was liked, I was trusted. And so then I went online. I started the Metta District, which is my lifestyle movement and movement community. And in the mix of all that, pelvic floor health has been something that's been a passion of mine. And I started looking into creating a tool to help men and women with their pelvic floor fitness health, because I had done some training with a urogynecologist from Reno named Dr. Bruce Crawford. And his research blew my mind, because he showed that, first of all, the pelvic floor doesn't work on its own. It works in conjunction with the co-recruiters of the adductors or inner thighs, the transverse abs, and the glute medius. So that was great to know. And then his research also showed that in a man's body and a woman's body, 90% of those people with pelvic floor issues, it is actually rooted in a fitness/movement root cause versus a medical root cause. So instead of having women lined up for pelvic floor mesh pinup surgery, only 1 of those 10 women in the waiting room actually needs that surgery. The other 9 women need proper education on posture and functionality of their pelvic floor. Those guys with erectile dysfunction or post-prostate cancer, 9 out of 10 of them need education and confidence around that part of their body, and they will live a very highly confident, sensual life because they have worked, within their internal health from the inside out. So the Cooch Ball and the Gooch Ball were born in January of 2020. And you guys, this process, as the mom of 3 boys, we have all different sizes of balls in our basement. And I just started sitting on these balls thinking, if a foam roller can melt through fascial restrictions and create blood flow so that the tension of the fascial lines and the muscular lines are not pulling on joints or misaligning, how could I replicate that in through the pelvic floor? And that's why I thought, well, let me see what I can do with a ball. And it was kind of like like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Like,
Yeah.
this is too hard. This is too soft. This is okay. How would I fix it? And then you know what I did? I started getting on the phone and I called people from like Spalding and Wilson and these big sporting goods manufacturing stores. And I'd say, hi, I'm Jana Danielson from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And I own a Pilates studio and I'm working on a new product. It's for pelvic floor health. And I'm wondering if you'd be interested in learning more about it so that, maybe you would consider manufacturing this for me. And I was laughed out of town. I was
Sure.
hung up on. They're like, we make like
Right.
millions and millions and millions of volleyballs. We're not going to change our production line for a Cooch Ball or a Gooch
Right.
Ball. So I went offshore. I found a manufacturer. I have a lawyer that worked with me. I have a design and a utility patent. We launched it in January. I flew off to Tampa to do a kind of like a Shark Tank type entrepreneurial competition with the Home Shopping Network. It was a mass marketing boot camp. There were 30 of us there. I went with my Cooch Ball in hand and I won. I
Oh,
won the
wow.
competition.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and I was scheduled to go back to Tampa in April of 2020 to do an 8-minute show to meet with the buyers and to, launch the Cooch Ball empire. And then the gift of COVID, as we all know, landed on our laps 3 weeks before I was scheduled to fly. And then we pivoted, and within 24 hours we had a landing page up, and I created a webinar, and I started doing the Pelvic Floor Secrets webinar, and we sold out of the Cooch Ball, and then I ordered more, and I kept doing the webinar, and we sold out again, and it's just been growing. It's been growing and growing. We now have a distribution center in the U.S. that ships for us globally, and I am, that's what I do. That's how I show up. I draw my line in the sand and I help people understand that their health and wellness is a series of moments that become momentum that work towards a transformation that can be as small as I'm now sleeping better at night, which is actually pretty huge,
Yeah.
to my body is completely transformed. My confidence is completely transformed. My relationship with my husband has never been better. I can now do things with my children. Or I thought that because I was in menopause, the solution was, the newly designed, adult pad. And here I am. I can travel again and not make my days, plan my days around bathroom breaks, or, to have a husband reach out to me and say, I am reconnecting and having the best sex of my life with my wife because I've understood why my pelvic floor has impacted my erectile dysfunction. Like, thank you.
Cool.
That is
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing. So that's my nutshell story.
I like it. I've got several questions, but so my assumption is this, and right, I'm usually wrong when I assume, as we all are. I'm assuming Cooch Ball women, Gooch Ball guy.
You got it.
I'm so smart. Look at this.
You
Look
got
at this. All right. So, okay.
Yeah.
So did you, in the creation of this, I'm assuming, again, stop saying the word assuming, Jay, did you have an issue that you were, because to work with this specialist and whatnot, like it seems like it's not a normal path, right? Like not most people are sitting around thinking, I'm going to find a pelvic floor specialist. I'm going to work with them. So you were having issues.
Yeah, I mean, the mom of 3 boys, not that it's a given, right? But
Right.
I wanted to run a marathon. That was one of my goals, right? I wanted to run a marathon, and then I trained a team to run a marathon. And so I would have leaking incontinence issues, and I was like, but why? Like, why do we teasingly tell our girlfriends when they're pregnant, like, welcome to the lifetime membership of the P Club? Like, why is that an automatic? And so, and as a Pilates instructor, understanding the function of the core, how the diaphragm is a key link to the pelvic floor. And when we don't breathe properly, it's not if there will be pelvic floor issues, it's when there will be pelvic floor issues.
Right.
I started doing pelvic floor specific Pilates classes. And the frustrating part for me, Jay, was that I would teach these classes, I would educate, and it would be like I was talking to there would be like nothing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, hello, right? And then it would never fail. After class, I'd have a lineup of women in tears or an inbox full of emails saying, you spoke to my soul in that class because this is what I have. And that was part of it. I kind of got a little pissed off. I'm like, why aren't we talking about this in a different way? Like, why do
Yeah.
we say things like down there? Why can't we even
Right.
use the right words? And so that's
Right.
why when I came to name this baby, I was like, we're not going to call it something. I had a marketing group say, you should call it the
Right.
perineum because it's the
Right.
perineum that we sit on. And I was like, no,
Right. The butterfly ball or
yes,
something
exactly. Like
cute
the
and
wow
yeah.
ball. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I said, no. We're gonna come at this like kind of badass, sassy chic. It's gonna be
Okay.
Cooch
I
Ball for
like it.
women, Gooch Ball for men, because I want people to say, it's what? It's a
Yeah.
what? It's a what ball? Because then you
Totally.
know what happens? It opens up the stage for me to start to educate and inspire. And
Yeah.
so that and very quick and even with Jason. So I would, he was one of my test subjects and I was like, sit on this ball. And so he about maybe 2 weeks after he came home from golf with his buddies and he's like, I am driving the ball like 20 yards further off the tee.
Oh, wow.
He's like, what do you, is that this ball? And I'm like, listen, when you release your pelvic floor, I mean, there's so much connectivity to the low back, the
Yeah.
functionality of the hips, the psoas muscle. And I was like, just keep doing it, right? And so that we started noticing that in our own bodies. And then, like, sensually, we started noticing changes between us, in the bedroom as well. And I was like, okay, there are very different levels of functionality coming into our body through releasing the pelvic floor. And it's not just not a matter of just sitting on the ball, right? There's connecting with the diaphragmatic breathing because the
Right.
muscle has to be functional. A functional muscle works and it rests. It doesn't just work and stay working or rest and stay resting.
Yeah.
I started to think about how could I train and educate around the breath and the release simultaneously. And so that's when I created for men, it's a course called Gooch Power. And for women, it's a course called Create Your Pelvic Floor Upgrade that comes with the ball because education, as you know, education
Right.
is power. Like you can give content, but if that person's brain isn't able to digest it in small little pieces that they can feel really quickly, we know how disconnected people are. It's not going to resonate with them and they're going to be like, this doesn't work, right? We're in a society where we want this right
Yeah.
now. We learn that the 21-day blah, 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 that, right?
Right.
And I think what you do and what I do is we try and it's like the story of Hansel and Gretel where they put the breadcrumbs out,
Hmm.
right? And the bread people are picking up the breadcrumbs, but it's the beauty happens in the process. The outcome is a function of the process. So to change someone's mindset to be like, okay, if your goal is to lose 10 pounds, that's great. But how are we going to reverse engineer that so that that goal can actually become a reality?
Right.
There's so much more that has to happen daily, consistently, so that, and maybe it's 7 pounds, but maybe it is, like I said, maybe your skin and your hair look amazing. Maybe you feel 10 years younger. Maybe so that really has been a huge part of this. There's the physicality of the product, there's the inspiration of the coaching, but then behind it all, there is helping them actually rewire how they think and how they feel, how they talk to their body. Because if we don't change, I think Dr. Joe Dispenza says of the 60 to 70,000 thoughts we think in a day, 80 to 90% of them are the same as yesterday and the same as last week and the same as last month, right? So how do we inspire change if this thing up here is just on autopilot?
Right.
So that's kind of where the wholeness of this pelvic floor, being a champion for pelvic floor health came from, because I knew in my own body what it felt like, and I wanted to help others.
Yeah. Is it the fact that, because what I'm thinking about, like the connection between, the brain and the muscles and whatever you're talking about, the mind muscle connection. I mean,
Yeah,
oftentimes it's hard to get somebody to even connect with their abs, right?
yeah,
Like a muscle that they can actually see or they know where it is. Like if I say, hey, I
yeah,
want you to connect with your pelvic floor, most people would be like, well,
yeah.
I wouldn't even know the first thing about, like, is that it? Like, I don't even
Yeah.
have, you know what I mean? Like, so I assume that that was the process of like, the education piece behind this. And my next question is this: I think everything, right, is good for everybody in a certain circumstance. So this sounds to me like it would be good for somebody who didn't even yet have those issues
Oh,
as a preventative. Because I think I
100%.
think I think when most people are hearing your talk, they're going to think, oh, well, I don't have that yet, so I'm going to wait, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's like preventive maintenance. So if I'm not currently having a pelvic floor quote unquote issue or what might lead to be, I could still use this and maybe have some preventative maintenance.
1,000,000%. This is a group of muscles.
Right.
It is the same as a bicep, a
Right.
deltoid, a quad, a hamstring. When there is a lack of function, work, rest, understanding, there is going to be dysfunction. There just is, right? We're
Right.
creatures of habit. We're creatures of habit. So we will always take the path of least resistance unless we learn.
Right.
So from a absolutely. I mean, we want like I even, you know what, Jay, I actually even have moms that have the Cooch Ball that use it like with their kids 9, 10, 11, and here's in a lot of bedwetting situations. So in a lot of when we have kind of those tween age kids that are still wetting the bed, and maybe you've gone to your doctor, or I know chiropractic often helps, many a lot with bedwetting as well, is that our children unfortunately are growing up in an age with lots of this
Yeah.
and lots of noise, and they a lot of them are actually holding and manifesting tension in through their pelvic, like their
Sure.
pelvis, their core, and their pelvic floor. And a lot of times these kids who are bedwetters at age 9, 10, and 11 that are just want to go on a sleepover with their friends in the worst way, but are like, no way am I going
Yeah.
to risk having an accident in this person's house. It does, their little bodies manifest that tension. Even like kids in athletics, like dancers classically are holding, right? Holding. We see kids that are in equestrian type sports that have a lot of actually pelvic floor issues, a lot of Highland dancers as well, men and women, a lot of
Sure.
cyclists, right? So it really is, again, it's rewiring to understand that this can happen, like we can prevent or we can learn about our body at any age. And just because you don't cough or sneeze and pee your pants, or maybe you don't have erectile dysfunction or pain during intercourse, it doesn't mean that there isn't some dysfunction that is currently manifesting itself. Because even having a cell phone in your pocket, right, back pocket, changes the
Yeah.
symmetry of your posture. Sitting at our, sitting, we are chronic sitters. And so I always say this: if you're sitting at a desk for 8 to 10 hours a day, then if you are a side sleeper that sleeps with your knees bent, you're still in a sitting position just 90 degrees from where you are upright. So in a day, for some people, they're in that position for 17, 18 hours. And I've been diving into the magnificence of the psoas muscle, and
Yeah.
there's so much around that. So the pelvic floor is not just an isolated part of our body because of the interconnectivity, like I was saying before, of the fascial lines, of the other muscular attachments, of the hip complex, the low back. A lot of times, SI, sacroiliac issues, sciatic issues, constipation, cold, tingly feet, like things that you may not map back to the pelvic floor. It's not just erections and incontinence. That's not
Right.
all the pelvic floor maps to. So you'll see, I was working with a CrossFit athlete, and she was, in the masters division, she was like top 5 in the world, and she would do her double unders and she would pee her pants, right? Um, and we worked very specifically on understanding pelvic floor work, when to inhale, when to exhale, and it was drastically, her performance drastically improved. So, and just to loop back to your question about, if you want to train someone and say, make me a bicep muscle, well, people just make a bicep muscle, right? The pelvic floor starts very simply with either, a little bit of a cough, and you can feel, right? And it also gets the transverse abs, or the visualization of stopping and starting the flow of urine. And most people will know that as a Kegel. What I teach and what I like to share is, I like to call it beyond the Kegel, because if you think about stopping and starting the flow of urine, there's a Kegel, right? There's the pelvic floor. I bet you $1,000 you would never train one of your clients if they wanted to, if you were strengthening their arms, you would never say to them, all right, Jana, I want you to walk around all day and I want you to fire and release and fire and release and fire. Like, you would never train them like that. You would get them to work through a range of motion. Right. You might get them to do some eccentric work, right? That's the same thing. This is why the Kegel for some people actually becomes part of the problem, because they learn to hold, right, and they learn to relax, but they don't teach the muscle what's the in between, what's the function in between A and B, because there has to be, right? And that's where the education, where you use the breath, and it's counterintuitive. So let me just break it down for you. When you inhale through your nose, the pelvic floor is at rest, because at that point your lungs are filling with air. So your diaphragm, that big mushroom cap muscle, that diaphragm has to get out of the way of the lungs expanding. So when the diaphragm is at rest, the pelvic floor is at rest, right? As you exhale and the lungs deflate, that mushroom cap muscle, the diaphragm, expands, it works, and the pelvic floor works at the same time. So functionally, here's what happens. When you inhale, you kind of imagine like you could start the flow of urine. It's calm. There's really nothing happening in the pelvic floor. On the exhale, it's like there's this drawing up of, the skin between those bony sit bones, or between the pubic bone and the anus. There's a lifting, okay? So for women, I talk about like picking up a grape with their vagina. For guys, I'll say, think about walking into a lake and the water gets like mid-thigh and there's a lifting of the boys, right? That's the pelvic floor at work, the lift, all right? And then there has to be the subsequent lower. So right, where there's dysfunction is sometimes there's lift, but there's no lower, or there is no lift. Right. The elevator just stays at the ground floor. So we have to reteach the muscle through the breath work how to reconnect with that function. And it can be done.
Yeah. I'm thinking as you're talking through this, I think most of us, or I'll just speak for myself, I've got like what I call like a mobility routine, right? With like my Theragun or my, whatever it is, and my foam rollers and my lacrosse ball and everything like this. This is really just adding in one more element to a section of the body that we're that we are like neglecting. And if you think about that region of the body, like, if we just cut the, below the pubic region and about the belly button, there's so much going on in that area, from bones, muscles, nerves, tendons, ligaments, fascias, that it's really hard to conceptualize. I think you can, if you think about a bicep muscle, right, it's like it's pretty cut and dry, right? There's two muscles, it connects here, it inserts there, there's a certain amount of nerves and blah blah blah. It's really easy to see. But when you start thinking in terms of the pelvic region, I mean, it's like it's like the 405 connection to the 101 in LA. It's like there's so many crossovers and bridges and tunnels, and most of the time one of them's under construction. And so that's kind of what's going on down there in that region. So if we really brought this in and made it part of our mobility routine, it would be really easy to like kind of like, oh, okay, well, this makes sense. I'm already rolling my hamstrings and my IT bands. Why not give this same attention to an area of the body that could create so much more things. So I think that's a great way to look at it for all of the listeners. And then, I think a lot of people, they're going to hear this and they're going to think women, right? Because that's guys are like, nah, I'm cool, right? Like, I don't need to gooch, right? So I want people to hear that. I think that what Jana's saying, or I know what she's saying is like, it's 50-50, right? We need this as much as you need this from a guy's perspective.
Well, like, I think a lot of guys believe, and I've heard this come out of men's mouths,
Yeah.
we don't even have a pelvic floor. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Yes, you do.
I guarantee you, those surveys where they go around the streets and they say they interview people. I bet you if we did that for 5 hours, I bet 99% of dudes would say, nah, that's a girl thing, man. Like, I bet if you just said something as simple as, hey, how's your pelvic floor? They'd be like, pelvic floor, I'm a dude.
Yeah.
But they would have no clue, zero clue. Okay, so I think that's a great, like, jokingly way to say, guys, like, we've got the same thing that the ladies have got, and we can have the same, even though we're not having the babies, we can have the same dysfunctional problems down there that you guys can.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and besides, like, there's the main nerve that goes from our brain into the pelvic floor area, into the genitals, is the same for a man and a woman. It's called the pudendal nerve, right? Pudendal nerve is a motor nerve and a sensory nerve. So it's like you said, it's the 405, right? It's the main communication route, and it's also, sensorial.
Right.
So it's all about the yummy, juicy, feel good sensations. And you mentioned that part of our body between the pubis and the belly button, and you guys, and I'm not like a chakra specialist, but there is so much magic in the root chakra.
I agree.
At the base of our, of our spine, that is just waiting to be unblocked. Like, I've actually seen amazing transformations happen, not just physically, but like emotionally and almost spiritually in people's bodies, that they shed these old belief systems that no longer serve them when they get connected to that part of their body. And that's why I'm so passionate about finding people like you, Jay, that are willing to, give me a platform and understand what is trying to be done here. Because as we search, or as we live our lives in search of the optimal, whatever that quality of life is, whatever you're searching for, when you ask people, why they come to work with you, what problem are you helping them solve? A lot of times this work in health and wellness is secondary in someone's mind.
Totally.
But it is one of the top most impactful ways to improve how you show up. Because when you impact someone's health, you're not only impacting that beating heart, you're impacting their partners and their families and their workplaces and their communities. Like, it's like a pebble being dropped into a lake that just permeates out. So, that's why I just feel so called to do this work, is because it's time that we, even like my boys, my 3 teenage and 1 adult, my 2 teenagers and my 1 young adult son, like, they'll get on the Cooch Ball.
Yeah.
They can tell. And I'm like, what a gift as a mom to be able to give her teenage and young adult son to know, like, geez, I didn't hit the ball off the tee, or geez, my back's getting a little bit sore. I'm going to get on and I'm going to do my pelvic floor work. And then I have a sequence for like gut health, and a sequence for psoas release, and a sequence for low back, and a sequence for, right? So it's all just empowering. And I love the way you positioned your mobility work, because as we know, as fitness professionals, that usually gets parked at the very end of the list, right? Did I get my strength in? Did I get my cardio in? right? And then, but if you flip the script, all that mobility work has a direct relationship with everything else that we do.
I'm a lot like you. I've been doing this for 30 years. Like, I started lifting weights when I was in the 6th grade. So you can imagine, like, my body is like, hey man, like, we don't need to pick anything else heavy up. Let's just 15, 20 pound plenty. So where I've shifted from, heavy bench press, squat, 600 pounds, deadlift, to now, like, I'll do 25 minutes of mobility in 10 minutes of a workout.
Yeah.
Whereas I used to do an hour and a half of pick heavy shit up and put it down, and then think about, I'll do my mobility tomorrow. So now
Yeah,
my
yeah.
entire life is completely shifted. And just so you know, like my entire audience knows that I listen to frequencies. I believe in chakras. I got crystals all over my desk. And
Amazing.
I just want to double down on what you said about that area of the body holding tension. Like, I
Yeah.
think that most people, like everything from money issues to relationship issues to everything, you hold a lot of tension. Like, I think it's normal when we say, oh, you hold a lot of tension in your neck, right? Everybody
Yeah.
says that. But it's like when you say, well, you're probably holding this money issue or this relationship issue, like in your your sacral iliac area. And they're like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I believe that, Jay. And then all of a
No.
sudden they start to work on that and the release of it and all that. And they're like, oh my gosh, like no more low back pain,
Yeah.
digestive issues improving. And so,
Yeah.
guys, we have to understand that, like, yes, it's beautiful from a physical perspective. Like, we'll use the bicep again. It's easy to see. Flex it, don't flex it, whatever it is. There's a lot of emotional and mental connection that even goes with that bicep. And then we get down to an area like the pelvic area, massive amount. Like, let's use that massive highway connection thing. And you don't, like, what's the thing that pisses you off the most when you're driving? Construction, right? Lane closed here, roadblocks, potholes. If you think about your pelvic floor area with that, if you have roadblocks and potholes and constructions and guys with stop signs and all kind of stuff, you're not going to get flow and connectivity and all those things. So I think everything you've said, I just put it in a really stupid guy's analogy. So all the dudes are like, oh, I can relate to that. Like, right. So I think
Yeah.
we're saying the exact same thing. And I agree with you 1,000,000,000%. I think this is so cool that most people focus strictly on the problem, right? It's like, I've got a problem and I'm going to talk about that problem 90% of the time. It sounds to me like you had a problem and you said, okay, that's enough of the problem. Now let's use 90% of our time for the solution.
Yeah.
And that's how you get, that's entrepreneurialism 101 is problem is great, but the solution is where everything should be focused on. So hats off to you for having that drive and that connection to do all that. And you sound just like my wife, Lori. Like, she would pick up the phone and call like Nike and be like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to need you to do. And they'd be like, who is this? And she'd be like, okay, let's go through this again. So you sound a lot like Lori from that perspective, especially from the entrepreneurial creation thing. She just created this new product as well and had to, figure out how to have fabric manufactured and dyed and colored and created and all this crazy stuff. And, to hear her on the phone, she's on the phone with like some of the top designers in the world having these conversations. And they're like, what is going on here? But it's people like you and it's people like her that change the world, right? That make a difference. So that's a long-winded way to say my hat's off to you for having an issue, not just focusing on the issue, but figuring out a solution, not just for yourself, but for the world. So we need more of that. So congrats on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And we're going to put all the stuff. We're going to put the Cooch Ball, the Gooch Ball, all of your social stuff in the show notes and your website link. So you're going to be super easy to find. And you can actually just Google your name and you pop up. So it's that's a verification that there's more than just me Googling searching for you. So that's awesome. So you're going to be easy to find, but we're going to make sure we include all the socials and everything. I know you said you want to give some ideas or some stuff or some things away. So the floor is yours. Like,
Yeah.
how would you like to gift or give or talk about the product to, for the listeners?
Yeah, so I am going, well, I think we'll just put the link in the show notes for the gift. So there's a free gift. That's probably the easiest way. There may be a promo code. So look in the show notes. If there's a promo code at the checkout page, put the promo code, but I might be able to figure it out without a promo code.
And if you guys don't see that in the show notes, obviously reach out to me because I'll have, you know what I mean? Like, we'll figure it out. Like, my listeners know, like, send me a message and we'll get you what we need to get you. So, okay. So we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, so the gift is basically, it's a 10-day experience where you're going to get dripped a few emails every few days on like I'm going to say like the 3 things that I did. Remember when I told you when I was in my deepest, darkest, kind of the doldrums?
Yeah.
This gift I'm giving is rooted in the 3 basic things that I did to start to move myself through that cost nothing. The liquid that's in here might have something to do with it. So it's called Time to Transform. Then we're going to put the link for the Gooch Ball and the Cooch Ball. So it's super easy for that. And then, yeah, the other, you can connect with me on socials. I get back to all my DMs. I am just looking for beating hearts that
Yeah.
are wanting to join this movement of people who are, looking at their health and wellness from different perspectives. And like I said, it's time that we understand a little bit more about this beautiful vessel that we get to live in,
Yeah.
you know, on this earth, and optimize it until Joseph Pilates, who is the gentleman that created Pilates, said, one of my favorite quotes, well, he's got two quotes that I'll share. One is, breath is the first and the last act of life, and somewhere in the middle, we forget how to do it, right? So I love that because it all connects back to, the essence of feeding our 75 trillion cells, the essence of life, which is oxygen. And then the other quote of his that I love is, physical fitness is the first requisite of happiness. And
Me
I
too.
love that because I think sometimes we get so caught up in the number on the scale or the size of the clothes that we actually forget about the joy
Yeah.
that a healthy body can bring us, the freedom it can bring us, because we can do what we want, when we want, whenever the hell we want to do it, because we don't have to think like, oh, is my back going to be screwed up after I
Yeah.
walk on that unstable surface? Or, what's going to, no, no, no. The
Love it.
birthday candles on your cake are a celebration of the number of times um, the moon or the sun has revolved around this planet, and that's all it is. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that there is, now that I'm in my 40s or now that I'm in my 50s
Right.
or 60s, I no longer can have that part of my life. No. So that's what I really want to leave
I love it.
your audience with.
You are absolutely awesome. Listen, guys, I'm getting a gooch. Lori's getting a cooch. She doesn't even know it yet. I can't wait to get out of my office and go just tell her. We're going to go on a walk as soon as this podcast is over, and she's going to get a Cooch Ball education. So everybody should be getting one of these bad boys. Jana, thank you so much for being a rock star. And again, let's give a little shout out to Sean Marshall for connecting us. Sean, we love you, brother. Appreciate that. And Jana, you're a rock star.
Thank Jay. So are
Thank,
you.
Oh, it's just, you didn't have to say that, but I appreciate it. Jana, we will talk to you soon. You and I are going to be fast friends. So thank you for coming on the show. And I know everybody got an awesome education and experience today. And we're going to sell a lot of Gooch and Cooch balls.
Amazing. Bye,
All
everyone.
right. See you, bud. Hey, before you go, I'd just like to say thank you again for listening to the Thrive Forever Fit podcast and watching on YouTube. It means the absolute world to me. And if you would do me one favor, and that is simply subscribe and review this podcast on whatever platform it is that you enjoy it on, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, doesn't matter. I would absolutely be so grateful and so thankful if you do that for me. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you again next week with an awesome, awesome episode. Bye.